Greetings, citizens. Hey you beautiful, creepy little human being you. Welcome to my channel and welcome to today's Morbid makeup video. I'm so happy we could meet like this. I'm so happy that somehow in all this craziness, you and I were able to find each other on this cute little earthly rotation. My name is Brittany, or BRATTERSTEIN, whichever you prefer, and today we're going to be discussing a truly evil woman named Angela Simpson. She is a woman who brutally tortured and then murdered a physically disabled man over a period of 3 days, and then went on to give some of the most chilling interviews about the murder that I have ever seen. But before we get started, if you have not yet had the pleasure, please make sure to join the Brat Pack by subscribing and ringing the bell. I put out a new Morbid makeup video every single week, and I would love it if you would come and hang out, watch it, hang out, become one of us. One of us. One of us. One of us. Okay, now that we're done with that pesky but totally necessary self-promotion, let's talk about Angela Simpson. So, the name Angela Simpson might not sound totally familiar to you, but if you are into true crime, her face will probably ring a bell. Because I remember I first heard about her years ago when I was just, floating around on the internet, and I saw her post-conviction interviews also floating around the internet. So boom, we ran into each other and I watched them and I was like, whoa. I said to myself, hey self, you should probably look into this because this chick seems crazy. Just like the interviews are intense. She's very just like cool and calm and calculated and like, yeah, absolutely I did that. Absolutely I did all of those horrible things. But then as it often happens with me, I, scrolled on and then I forgot and it went right in and then right out and I went along living my life without looking into her. But then I was on my For You page recently scrolling on TikTok and boom, her post-conviction interviews are circulating the internet again. And I was like, okay, self, you're going to do it this time. And I screen capped it and I looked into it and oh my gosh, this chick. And man, there's just so much I did not know about this case. And there's so much about her in general and her backstory and her life prior to her crimes that just you cannot find online. I scoured every corner of the internet. I looked at newspapers. I was able to get access to all the minute orders from her court trial from when she got arrested. And I read every single minute order because I wanted to bring you as much information as humanly possible. Because I don't know about you, but I hate getting really interested in a case and then finding that there's just like so many holes that cannot be filled and that I can't get the whole picture. But you know what? Let me get into telling you the story. Okay, let's do that. So come, gather around and let me tell you the story of a truly evil woman named Angela Simpson who committed an absolutely horrific torture murder and then went on to have no remorse, like none. She didn't care at all. Let me set the scene here for you a little bit. It is about 5 a.m. on August 5th, 2009 in Phoenix, Arizona. So it is probably already 85 degrees outside, even though it's an hour before sunrise because Phoenix is so hot in the summer. And police get a little phone call and they get the information that there is a fire burning in the back parking lot of a local church. Fire crews are dispatched to the Covenant of Grace Church in Phoenix, Arizona, and when they get there, they find that there is a trash can burning brightly with a fire sitting in the middle of the back of the parking lot. Firefighters begin putting out the blaze, not really thinking that there's any foul play involved. They're just there. They probably thought somebody was out there burning trash or that the Yellow Jacket Boys were out there singing their doo-wop songs around a burning trash can. Really casual burning trash can stuff. So the fire people, the firefighters begin dousing the flames, and as the flames start to burn down, they notice that they are getting more than they bargained for. Inside the trash can were the charred remains of a dismembered adult man. So naturally, police are called because this is out of a firefighter's realm of responsibility. This isn't part of their job description, so they call police. And the problem is sometimes with these cases of arson is the firefighters are not there to preserve a crime scene. Their number one responsibility is to put out a fire. So sometimes evidence is lost in these things because they're just out there spraying their fire hoses around, which is what they're supposed to be doing. But that's why arson cases can sometimes be so difficult. So anyways, police come to investigate. They remove the body, and in taking the body out of the trash can, they see just how extensive the damage to this body was. Not only was this man burned beyond recognition, but he had been cut into pieces. He had a nail driven into his skull, and he was missing several teeth. So it was clear to police that this had been a gnarly murder. Police start doing, you know, their due diligence, their job, and they start canvassing the area and, of course, like questioning people who work at the church because the body was found in the church parking lot. And they find in doing this that the night before the church had had an event that ended at about 9:30, and they were like, oh, maybe this is somebody who was leaving the church and something bad happened to him there. But in looking into it, they found that all of the members of the church who had been there the night before were accounted for, so that theory was quickly thrown out. It wasn't a member of the church who met with foul play the night before. So news of this murder spread across Phoenix quickly. It was so sensational, and it just had everything. The murder, the dismemberment, the burning of the body, the location the killer chose to display the body, like at a church. It was just so sensationalized. And then the police were like, this is the worst crime we have ever seen, the most brutal murder we have ever seen. So the media ran with it and they ate it up, and people were like consuming it. Like everyone was very interested in this case who was in that area at that time. Though the body was badly burned and most of his teeth had been removed, it actually didn't take police long to identify the victim. The body was that of a 46-year-old man named Terry Neely, a disabled man who was last seen alive on video surveillance 3 days earlier on August 2nd, 2009 at about 8 p.m., leaving the assisted living facility where he lived in his motorized scooter. So they last saw him leaving in his motorized scooter from the assisted living place where he lived. And it would be this motorized wheelchair that would inevitably help police find his murderer. So once the body was identified as belonging to Terry Neely, police released to the media like, hey, this is who it is. He was last seen leaving this place in this motorized scooter. Please contact the police with any information you have. And a witness did come forward because apparently a scooter that matched the description of the scooter that Terry was last seen in had been sitting out front of this apartment complex for a couple days and was unclaimed. This seemed like a pretty good tip. One, because of the scooter, and two, because of the proximity of the apartment complex to the church. So police went and they started to investigate the area. They found the scooter and they're like, okay, this definitely looks like it belongs to Terry. So they start canvassing the area, checking apartments, knocking on doors, seeing who would voluntarily let them in. And for those that didn't answer the door, didn't let them in, they would peep through windows. They'd ask the landlord for permission, you know, anything they could do to get their foot in the door. And in doing this, they found one apartment that was very clearly the site of a very violent crime. They found that inside this apartment, the carpet had been ripped from the floor. There were blood stains and blood spatter all over the place. And when they tested this blood, they found that it belonged to 46-year-old Terry Neely. So this apartment complex was a goldmine for police. Not only did they find the motorized scooter and the blood-soaked apartment with blood that matched the victim, but they also found a witness who told police some very interesting information. So this witness, who I believe was the landlord of the apartment, he told police that around the time of the murder, he had seen smoke coming out of the window of the apartment where all the bloodstains were found. And he said he went over to investigate and he looked through the window and he saw that there was a City of Phoenix trash can in the middle of the kitchen burning, which, okay. Why did this guy think that this was such a normal thing at the time? Okay, maybe he didn't, but there's no reports that he called police sooner. He didn't see this trash can and call police and think it's weird, or call the fire department and think it's weird. He just looked in, saw it, and was like, and left. And I just find that so odd. I find that to be very, very strange that he didn't do anything about it sooner or come forward with the information sooner. I don't know. Maybe it was like a snitches get stitches situation. I really don't know. I just find that very weird. Maybe, I don't know the area. Maybe burning trash cans inside apartments are a normal thing in Phoenix, Arizona. Not so much here, though. So I don't know. Let me know if you're from the area, if that seems weird to you, but it seems super weird to me. Anyways, this story about the burning trash can is not the only information that this witness gave police. He also told police that around the time of the murder, the tenant who lived in the house with the bloodstains and the burning trash can, a woman named Angela Simpson, along with a friend of hers, a man named Edward McFarlane, who just went by the nickname Cracker, which I don't know why, but every time I hear that nickname Cracker, I just laugh. I just picture him hey, what's up? My name's Cracker. Nice to meet you. I can't take it seriously, but anyway, that's not important. According to this witness, around the time of the murder, Angela Simpson and Eddie Cracker had come to him and asked to borrow his vehicle. And he was like, yeah, sure. And according to him, he had no idea what they were using it for until after they returned, which I also find a little weird. I wonder if he did. I don't know if he did, but I mean, he says he saw the burning trash can, and then like right around that time, they also want to use his truck. I don't know. It seems odd. I don't know the nature of the relationship between them, but he found out what they did when they got back. When Angela and Eddie Cracker returned from borrowing this witness's vehicle, he claims that they told him that they had murdered a man and they had cut him into pieces and that they needed to borrow his vehicle to transport the body. And they told him, like, if you tell anybody, we're going to do the same to you. So this witness was pretty useful, right? Like, this was a very, very useful witness for police. With this information, police were able to track down this mysterious murdering duo, and they found that both of them were already in police custody. They had recently been arrested, so they were like, perfect. I imagine that's what they thought. And they were like, yeah, let's go. We can go and question them. This is going to be super duper easy because they're already in custody, which is like best case scenario, I imagine, when you're looking for a murderer. Never mind. That was a stupid sentence. So real quick, apparently the reason that Angela and Eddie Cracker were currently in jail is because sometime after the murder of Terry Neely, the two of them had broken into the home of a local and they had beat him and bound him and robbed him, and then they were like, we're gonna come back and finish you off. And they left the apartment with him like all tied up, and he was able to free himself and called the police and told them what happened. And this was probably really good for him that he reported what happened to him, because knowing what these people are capable of based on what they ended up doing or what she ended up doing, and because of her motivations, which we are going to get into, this was probably really good for him. And it was really good for police because since they had done this crime where they robbed this man, they were in jail, so they could easily be questioned about the murder of Terry Neely. So Eddie Cracker and Angela were questioned separately, and based on what I've seen in Angela's interview, because I have seen the bits and pieces that are available online that I could find of it, it seems like either Eddie Cracker was interviewed first or they made her believe that he was interviewed first as like an interrogation tactic, which we know that police do. And so police told her, like, straight up, Eddie Cracker told us that you and he both murdered Terry Neely. And at first, she was not very forthcoming. She didn't want to be questioned. She didn't want to talk to the police. But once she heard that Eddie Cracker had said this, her interest peaked up a little bit. She was interested in talking now. So Angela said to the officer, he said I did it. He said I was there. And the officer responded with yes. And she just kind of stared at the cop for a second, kind of like she was either debating on what to say or trying to kind of feel him out to see if he was being truthful. But then she kind of hung her head and she said, if I told you who did it, how, and why, would you let him go? And I found this phrasing really interesting. I tried to look into the background and the relationship between Angela and Eddie Cracker, and I couldn't really find anything about who they were to each other besides like accomplices in crime, but he obviously meant something to her, in my opinion, based on the phrasing of just that, like, will you let him go? And based on things she says about him later, which we're gonna get into, we're gonna discuss more of that after we get into the actual murder and motive for the murder. It leads me to believe that this person was important to her, and it makes me wonder if maybe allegedly Eddie Cracker was more involved in the murder and she was covering for him because he mattered to her, but we'll get there in like real quick. Angela then goes on to confess to the murder, and she says, and I quote, I killed Terry by deceptively luring him to apartment 201, sitting him down and beating him with various objects until he went unconscious, and then I slit his throat. She told this story of absolute carnage while eating a candy bar and drinking a soda. Like it was nothing. Now, who is Angela Simpson? Well, Angela Simpson was born November 29th, 1975, making her a Sagittarius, and she is the mother to 4 children. There isn't a ton known about Angela Simpson's early life, except for the fact that more than likely she was a victim of both physical and sexual abuse, and that she was bounced around from foster home to foster home all through her childhood. She started to have unspecified mental health issues at a really young age, starting to be hospitalized for these issues at the age of 10, and that she has either her biological mother or someone that she considers to be a mother figure in her life, and that is who is currently raising her children. To deal with the trauma of her upbringing, from the abuse, physical and sexual, to the bouncing around and never having a stable home life, to the mental health issues, which we see this more often than we'd like to, obviously, but it is rumored that she developed a pesky drug habit that she funded through sex work. There hasn't been a ton of information about her past release. She's one of those people that keeps it pretty private and pretty close to her chest. She's not one of those people to she is one of those people to talk, but not one to talk about her past and what could have made her the way she is. But this bit of information I've given you is what is out there floating around to be found. Now, keep in mind that in a lot of cases, and specifically in this case, a lot of her past seems to be more speculation than fact. Now, it seems to me that people are hearing the story and filling in holes of information with what fits, but it's very likely that these are square pegs being shoved into round holes. Not that it's not true, but that there's no way to prove, or there isn't proof yet that it is true. And that's why I said that it's rumored that she had a drug problem, and it's rumored that she was in sex work. I did see this information in multiple sources, but I did not see it in any legal document, and I did not see it in an interview from her herself. So I just want you to keep that in mind. This information does seem like a reasonable backstory for Angela Simpson, and it does seem like it could fit, but it could also be speculation, people filling in gaps, or someone who just saw her episode on Deadly Women who kind of ran with that information. So, come to your own conclusions. At the time that Angela Simpson and Terry Neely, her victim, crossed paths in life, Terry was living in an assisted living facility that was just down the street from Angela Simpson's apartment complex, and she would often see him riding up and down the street in his motorized wheelchair. The two would talk here and there, and it is rumored, again, that Terry was a patron of Angela's services, and that's why when Terry left the assisted living facility the last time he was seen on August 2nd, 2009, Terry willingly went off with Angela when she said, hey, let's go back to my apartment and do some drugs and have some sex. Angela and Terry then headed over to her apartment. She says that they walked, and she says that Terry could walk just fine, and she doesn't know why the media is portraying him as so disabled. But I mean, his wheelchair was found at her apartment, so the wheelchair did make its way there. I'm not sure what the extent of his disabilities were. While inside this apartment, though, what we do know is that 46-year-old Terry Neely was subjected to 3 days of unimaginable torture at the hands of 33-year-old Angela Simpson. I'm now going to go over the series of events that Angela claims happened and the crimes that she was found guilty of. If you have an issue with, the specifics of torture, this is that warning. It's a true crime video. I feel like that's warning enough, but this is when it's going to start. Angela Simpson beat Terry Neely with a tire iron, a hammer, anything she had at her disposal, she beat him with. She then stabbed him approximately 50 times over a period of 3 days. 3 days. She pulled out most of his teeth with needle nose pliers, and she hammered a 3-inch nail into his skull, all while he was conscious. And she did all of this before slitting the man's throat. Now, although I just listed all of those injuries that he sustained, all of these injuries, though brutal, were superficial. His official cause of death was strangulation, because after she slit his throat, she strangled him to death with a wire. Now, if that doesn't already sound bad enough, which it does, while doing these things to him, she had placed a mirror before him, in front of him, so he had to watch what was happening to him so he could see what he deserved. Angela was arrested for this, and I say arrested because she was already in jail at the time, but she was arrested for this crime on top of what she was already in jail for. During Angela's trial, her attorney brought to the court's attention all of Angela's mental health issues, the fact that she started being hospitalized when she was only 10 years old, and that these mental health issues persisted through her entire life and were still present and responsible for the crime that she committed. Contrary to what her attorney said, Angela said, you know, I don't want any sympathy. I don't want any leniency. I don't want any of that due to my mental health issue. I did what I did. I am not remorseful, and I will not pretend to be. Angela Simpson pled guilty to her crimes in March of 2012 and was subsequently found guilty of first-degree murder, and for this crime she received a life sentence, plus an additional 14 years for the mutilation of Terry's body after the fact. While being interviewed after her trial, I actually think that this interview happened the same day as her trial, like right after. She was asked if she thought that her sentencing was fair. And she kind of sat there for a moment thinking, and then she responded, no. But instead of Angela claiming that the ruling was unfair against her or too harsh for her, she said that she believed that she should have gotten the death penalty. She says that being sentenced to spend life in prison with her loved ones because she has friends that she's made in prison that she considers to be her sisters, she says that that's not really such a bad fate and that her being put to death would have been justice for her crime. Now, the question that I'm sure you guys are wondering is, why did Angela do this to Terry? What was her motive? Well, her motive was pretty simple. She thought that Terry Neely was a snitch for the police. According to Angela, in her time knowing Terry, he said several times to her that he was an informant for the police and that he had helped get several people thrown in jail. And according to Angela, being a snitch is one of the top 3 most despicable things you can be, second only to, and the other of the 3, the top 3, is being a cop. When asked where murders would fit on the scale of Angela Simpson's, internal list of badness, she seemed shocked and found the idea laughable that murders could be included in a list of such horrible, evil people. And for the record, the police have looked into it and they've come out to say that Terry was not an informant, that if he was saying this, that he was probably just trying to brag, or people that just like to say things, that he was just bragging about things that he had done, and Angela Simpson was just like the absolute wrong person to say this to, if he even actually said it, but she claims that he did. Initially, when she was arrested, Angela alluded to the idea that she had killed other people as well, and said that all snitches deserve to die, but she has come out in later interviews saying that that wasn't actually true, that she never killed any other person, that it was just all talk, but that she would love to, if given the opportunity. When asked if Angela thought that there was anything wrong with her, she said that she actually believed that there was something wrong with the world around her, and that she was one of the only people that was normal, but that if you were to ask somebody else who knows her, they would say that something was wrong with her, which, when confronted with the information that the police had said that Terry was not actually an informant, Angela simply responded with, "Whoops if he wasn't," and kind of laughed. Even after being told this, she still showed she did not care. Not at all. It wasn't Angela's motive for her crime that was noteworthy. It wasn't even really the crime itself, even though it was absolutely horrible. I think what made her so memorable was her delivery of the information, her total lack of remorse, her cool, calm, chill demeanor when talking about the atrocities that she had committed. She's given several interviews since being arrested, and each time she describes what she did, she's so calm and matter of fact, and it is eerie to see. It's like the interviews with Zachary Davis, the sledgehammer killer. It's just so calm and cool, and just describing what you had for lunch, just flat face. When asked about her crime in the post-conviction interview that I mentioned above, the interviewer was like, "You murdered this man." And she completely calmly was just like, "Yes." the interview followed up that question with, "You tortured him?" And she was like, "Of course." Angela said that in her mind, Terry was just trash that needed to be taken out. She said that she was not sorry, she was not remorseful, and she would not pretend to be. She also said that she didn't take any personal enjoyment or get any satisfaction out of the 3-day-long torture and murder, but that she just found it to be necessary. Which, you know, I don't know if I really believe that she didn't enjoy it, because it was a lot. That is a lot to do to one person if you're not enjoying doing it, especially prolonging it over a 3-day period. Like, that is a lot. And, you know, I guess if drugs were involved, that could explain the rage to a point, but in my mind, not completely. But that is also just a personal opinion. But with that said, she also contradicts herself on this point of enjoyment, because she goes on later to say that her favorite part of the torture was pulling out his teeth and relished over how easy it is to mutilate a dead body. So, sounds kind of like you enjoyed it to me. I don't know. One place where Angela stays consistent is her position on snitches. She says that snitches are the worst, snitches don't deserve to live, and that she doesn't want her kids to live in a world where snitches exist. However, when she was asked if she would like to murder Eddie Cracker since he did snitch on her, she said no. That even though he had rolled on her and told police what she did, and had even lied and said that he was involved, that she could never do that to him, because at least at a point she had had a emotional attachment to him as a person, which again made me question the nature of their relationship, if it was romantic at all, and it also made me question his involvement again, but we're gonna get there. Angela seems like she has a temperament and demeanor that she is trying to portray in her interviews, and I am going to expand on that a little bit further in a moment, but the only time during her interviews that she showed any sort of real emotion that I could see was when she was talking about her children. The interview goes to ask her something about her kids, and she says that that's the one thing she won't talk about. She's not going to talk about her kids. And it's the only time that something kind of like changes in her eyes, and you can see that there's something real and deep there. So she is capable of emotion, but she showed none of that for her victim. Angela Simpson says that she only has 2 regrets when it comes to her crime and being arrested. She said that she regrets not keeping Terry alive a week. She says that she regrets killing him so soon because she would have liked to continue torturing him longer. It's rude. She said her only other regret was not killing that she had been robbing, the one that she got arrested for in the first place. She says that she had planned to. The plan was to kill him, but that she got busy and they had to leave and they didn't get a chance to come back and finish that job. She was also asked if she would like to kill again, and she said if the opportunity arose, she would absolutely love to. It sounds delightful. When this interview was over, there was a character break in Angela that completely changed my opinion of her up until that point. I had this idea of what I thought, and then I saw this, and it completely made me think of her in a different light. Her sort of evil, calm, disconnected, unfeeling mask that she had been wearing slipped. And it gave me more insight into her overall, and gave me just like a crap ton more questions about her and who she is. When the interview was over and Angela thought that the cameras were no longer on her, she got up and she was smiling, she was laughing. She said to the interviewer, "Good shit, dude. That's gonna be crazy, isn't it? That's gonna be wicked. Make it look good, please." Smiling just like that. Like, I can't do it exactly. I'll link down below some stuff for you to watch, but her whole demeanor changed. She was like a totally different person. But as soon as she realized that they were still filming, she was like, "Oh, is the camera on?" And they said yes, and she was like immediately stone-faced. She's like, "Oh," and went back to that demeanor. And she even tried to ask them not to include that part in her interview. She's like, "Oh, don't include that." But they told her that they were going to, and she was like, "Oh, okay, thank you," and completely went back to the demeanor that she had been presenting through the whole interview. And she just sort of like thanked them and left the room. Now here's where my mind went when I saw that slip. Okay, that combined with the lies she told about killing other people, her saying her only regret was not keeping Terry alive to kill him longer, the character slip when she thought nobody was looking. It seems to me that she has a character in her mind that she is trying to portray to people. She is actively trying to portray herself in this way and to give off this eerie, creepy, sinister, uncaring energy. But why is she doing that? I have no idea. She definitely wants attention, just due to the sheer amount of interviews that she gave. And based on the way she's acting in these interviews, and it seems like it is an act, this seems like it's a big game to her. And on that note, it seems like she's trying to seem like a worse killer than she actually is. And don't get me wrong, she's awful. What she did is like, how do you do that? That is an awful, evil person, but it makes me wonder if maybe she didn't do it alone. If maybe Eddie Cracker was involved. And it's just little breadcrumbs that I've followed that have led me down this particular path. First, he did admit to the crime initially. He admitted to being there and taking part in the murder. And maybe this was just in solidarity with Angela because he knew that she did it and he wanted to be there for her. Or maybe this confession was coerced. We do know that that happens. But I'm unsure. But he did say that he did it. And then Angela heard that and was like, no, he didn't do it. And she took all the credit. Now, did she do this because she really did it? Or did she do this because she wanted to protect Eddie Cracker? Or did she do this because she wanted to have all of the attention on her and all the credit given to her and for her to be this evil, bad bitch, even though she maybe didn't do it by herself? Maybe she knew the evidence they had on her was way stronger than what they were going to have on Eddie Cracker, and she knew she was going to plead guilty, so she's like, you know what, I'm going to go all in, and I'm going to just seem like this person who's so evil and get all this attention and have all these people want to talk to me. And that could make sense if the backstory that we know about her is true and she was like given away and bounced around a lot. Like people like that can sometimes grow up to crave attention and sometimes lie about what they do to get more attention, whether it be negative or positive, it doesn't matter. Eyes are on them for the first time ever for being interesting and important. To hear her talk, she's clearly an intelligent person. She's well-spoken and she's a little charming, clearly a little bit manipulative. I think that she is smart enough, and I wouldn't put it past her to be able to connect all of these dots and be like, I'm going down anyway. Might as well play this up and seem as badass as I possibly can. To seem more important than she is. But this is just alleged. This is a theory. This is where my brain goes when I start connecting these little dots in this case. This is not fact at all. The facts I already gave. This is now, we're getting into a little theory stuff here. But it does seem that she wants to take all the credit for this crime and to not admit that Eddie Cracker had any involvement, but he was there when she disposed of the body. He did borrow the truck with her. And he was there when the two of them attacked that they got arrested for, right? And Angela herself says that the initial plan was to kill this man. So theoretically, Eddie Cracker would have been involved in that murder had it taken place. So why would he be involved in that one, but not be involved in this one, and then just show up after the fact to help clean up the mess? Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see where these connections are coming from in my brain? It's just food for a thought. Let me know what you think down below, obviously. I could be like way off base and she did it all and he was just like a nice friend who helped clean up the mess. But I don't know. These dots. And he admitted to it. Why did he do that? Either way, no one really knows. Only them, I suppose. And if anybody else knows, they're not talking, which is probably good because we know how Angela feels about talking. And that, my friends, is the story of Angela Simpson, an evil woman who tortured and murdered a disabled man for 3 days because she thought he was a police informant. What do you think? I just have so many thoughts, guys. Like, my brain races with this one. Like, I would love to know more about her motivation because the snitch thing, though probably part of it, definitely seems like an inconsistent rule in her mind. I mean, she is mentally ill, but I mean, if it really is snitches and she hates them so much, why would Eddie Cracker be off the table? He snitched on her. She could have not gotten caught for this, but he was like, yeah, we did it. And he threw her under the bus. So why would he be off the table? Additionally, she did say that race played a card in this murder. I don't want to get too deep into that. When she referred to him as trash, she referred to him as white trash. And she said that if he had been a black individual, she would not have done it, that she couldn't kill another black individual. But with that said, Eddie Cracker is a white man who is a snitch, and he's still off the table. So again, there's some inconsistency there. There are definitely a lot of layers to this case and things that we'll never know, and it's so frustrating because I want to know. I want to know now. I just cannot imagine being able to do this to a person at all and then to do it and actually not feel bad about it. That does not compute to me because I feel so strongly. I could never do anything to hurt any person ever. So it's just so far disconnected from who I am that it's just like, it's just mind-boggling and I want to understand. But the bottom line is, this is a horrible, horrible crime and apparently happened for literally no reason. And there's never a reason to commit murder, but in this case, she was most likely wrong. Like, she thought he was a snitch and he wasn't, and now he's dead forever. And in such a messed up way, the prolonged torture and making him watch what was happening to him, that is literal nightmare fuel. Oh, and for an end video fun fact for you, just real quick, if any one of you are a fan of the TV show The Killing Eve, I'm not familiar, I have never seen it. But according to the creator of the TV show, the main character, who I believe is a Russian assassin, apparently she was inspired by Angela Simpson. So that character is based off of Angela Simpson because the creator saw the interviews with Angela and was so like interested in it, just like all of us who saw the interviews were, that she just took that interest and turned it into her art and created a character off of it. And I just thought that was a little fun fact. If you have seen that show and you like that show, the character is based off of Angela. But anyways, guys, that completes this video. I hope that it was interesting and informative and gave you every single fact that you would want when looking into this case. And of course, as always, I hope you enjoy it because I want you to enjoy what I'm putting out into the world. Please let me know what case you would like to see me cover in the future because, as you know, I have an ongoing list. You know what? Let me show you this list. This is my ongoing list of cases I plan to cover, and every single time you suggest a case, I add it to this list because I know that you are filled with good ideas and good taste, otherwise you would not be here. Of course, if you have not already, please make sure to join the Brat Pack by subscribing and ringing the bell because I put out a new video every single week and I would love it if you would come and watch it and hang out and talk to me in the comments. I always respond to you. And if you'd like to follow me on other social media, I am active more daily there. Like, I'm on Instagram and Twitter every single day. They are both BRATTERSTEIN, just like my namesake here. And with all of that said, thank you for being here when you could literally be anywhere else in the world. You're tight. This is tight, and I hope to see you in my next video.